Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. It is week 3 of the show this year, week 2 of the college football season, and whatever other weeks that you may be observing. We hope you're enjoying them. Hi, Carla. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm exhausted. That was a lot of football.
It was a lot of football. You've got other things being a faculty member going on at the beginning of the semester. I understand it would be a lot to try to digest.
And AJ, I listened to you. I stayed up. I didn't watch a Pac-12 game, but I stayed up. And it was a lot of fun. So we're going to see how long I can keep that going with a toddler and a faculty position. And like, I might only make it half the season. I'm sorry, buddy. I love you, but we're going to try. But it was worth it on Saturday night.
I did not stay up. I made it to halftime Penn State game, and then I was like, okay, this is good. I'm done for the day. It would have been fun to watch the rest of that. And I know there was some fun stuff happening Saturday night, but we will get to that. In fact, let's get to that. Okay. Carla, what stood out to you from everything you were able to take in last weekend?
So I had so many notes and things that shameless self-promotion. I wrote a Substack today.
Yes.
So instead of because if I would go through all those games, we would be here for 6 hours, and ain't nobody got time for that. So so it's a lot easier to just kind of throw a bunch of stuff there. So go subscribe to our Substack, and you can read about a lot of my thoughts from this weekend. I'll pick just a couple to talk about here.
Okay.
That Saturday night game, the one that I stayed up for, Texas Tech at Wyoming, ends in double overtime with a Cowboys win, and arguably one of the best. I mean, arguably it was the best game of the weekend. A very close second is TCU Colorado, right? Like that game was exciting as well. But the atmosphere in Laramie after a 2-hour weather delay, that game ending at like 1:45 in the morning Eastern time on Sunday, with a sea of yellow swarming the field at the end of that game was just absolutely divine. Like that's why we love college football, right? So that game was worth staying up for, even if I required an extra pot of coffee on Sunday just to function. Like I said, we'll see how long we can keep that going. The other big thing, I mean, obviously Colorado, we're going to talk about them here in a little bit. Shocked everybody. And how much of that is Colorado and how much of that is just TCU not being the team that they were last year? Again, week 1, we don't really know. We'll find out more this week. The other thing that I didn't really put into the Substack piece, because it was happening as I was writing, was you called it. You called it last week that this was a potential Clemsoning opportunity.
Clemsoning. Boy, and that was pretty much the Clemsoning you're going to come across.
It was. And like, here's what was dumbfounding to me was Clemson was still in that game in the second half.
Yeah.
They were down, like it was manageable in the second half for them to come back and potentially tie or even win the game. And I mentioned this last week. We saw times last season where Clemson just looked like they were just uninterested. And there were plays in the second half of that game where they could have easily, had they, made a couple stops here and there, they could have gotten right back into that game, and they just didn't look interested at all. A couple of really bad missed tackles on some of those runs. I mean, and Duke kind of torched them on the ground in the second half. Very uncharacteristic for a Clemson team. That was spectacular Clemsoning. To do it in week 1 on the road like that to a Duke team that Duke isn't much improved in football. They're gonna mess things up in the ACC, I think. But man, is Clemson, if they keep this up, I mean, they should win this week. They've got a cupcake this week in week 2. I mean, if they do something like this again, like, are they a top 25 team? They didn't look like it to me on Monday night with the way that they played. Or if they are,
Rankings
they're in the bottom half.
rankings are rankings, and you can make that make them what you will. But Clemson did drop 16 points to number 25 in the AP poll this week.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all based on what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just so much to take in. I could go on and on and on. Obviously, I loved what I saw from my Knits offense. Not so much from the Knits defense. We got to work on that. But you're going up against a West Virginia team that we knew was going to run the football. Yep. And they were able to run the football at times. And so that's my concern is that, okay, yeah, West Virginia is a little bit one-dimensional on offense, but you can't allow that many yards on the ground when you go up against Big Ten competition. So that's the one area. But, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better debut from Drew Aller. 21 of 29 for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like,
yes,
he lived up to the expectations.
Yes, he did. Great. Lots to take in. How about you? Super. Really, really thrilled to see Penn State playing as well as they did. That was fantastic. I was pretty stoked for that. What stood out from last week? Florida State. Florida State stood out from last week. Colorado, especially Travis Hunter. Oh man, that kid. That win stood out. I also have in my notes Clemsoning. Just as a reminder, since we talked about it last week, that we occasionally get something right. What did not stand out? I'm not overreacting here, but I think it's fair to say Ohio State's offensive line did not stand out. They were fair at best against Indiana. The aforementioned Substack, I've been posting stuff that links to the stuff that I've been reading to get ready for my college football weekends and other things that are interesting. If you are following the Substack, you would see that I posted a story from 11 Warriors last week about Tom Allen portaling in a whole new defensive line. Rush defense was the team's defensive weakness last year. So his goal was to make it its biggest strength, and so that is a tall order even for Ohio State level talent. And those guys were playing together for the very first time. It showed they were playing against a solid to very good D line, and it made it difficult for Ohio State to run the football. So we'll see. Ryan Day said that it's all problems that are correctable. We'll see if they get corrected in week 2. I would expect to see improvement, although the caveat is that week 2 is against Youngstown State, an FCS school. So I'm not sure what improvement actually is going to mean. But there's one more week after that one before we have a serious test in South Bend. You mentioned that you weren't watching a Pac-12 school, but it's worth watching the Pac-12 schools for many reasons, including this one. The Pac-12 is undefeated on the season so far, and AJ's got to be pumped. His after dark segments initially focus on the Pac-12. There's Pac-12 after dark before they started their own network and vanished from television. So AJ's got to be pumped that the conference is undefeated as it gets into the final season. I imagine we will hear about a couple of those games at least. AJ?
Hello, everyone. It is your week 2 Group of 5 After Dark report. It is my pleasure, nay, my privilege, to remind you that the Pac-12 is currently completely undefeated, unconquered, unbroken in its final year of existence. We're going to start on Friday, Illinois at Kansas, the exact opposite of being undefeated as the Pac-12. 7:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Kansas favored by 3. Illinois escaped Toledo. That is a real sentence in the year of our Lord 2023. They were at home. They had no reason to do that. Illinois, I think the magic's dried up. Kansas got off to a super hot start against Missouri State. Excuse me, I almost said Mississippi State. That's not Missouri State. That's Mississippi. Neither here nor there. They got off to a hot start against them. Can the Jayhawks handle a higher talent team? Can Illinois? Who's to say? It's an early opportunity to see how each of these teams will actually enter the season in earnest. I'm taking the Jayhawks here. On Saturday at noon, we have Utah at Baylor. Utah is favored by 8. The Pac-12 will continue to remain undefeated. Baylor, yikes. What happened? You got pasted at home by Texas State. That's not even like the good Texas. They literally fired their coach last year. They hired G.J. Kinney out of Incarnate Word. They took in a bunch of transfers and put the absolute belt to you. What happened? You were good. You almost beat TCU last year. They had to have the fire drill field goal to beat you. What happened? Utah, meanwhile, without their starting quarterback or starting tight end, handled Florida easily. Wasn't even close. That 11 was garbage time. Baylor, you gonna die. Utah rolls here. I got a couple upset alerts in the noon hour. We have Holy Cross at BC, at Boston College on ESPN+. Boston College lost to NIU in overtime. They came back to take it to overtime, but NIU controlled that game. They're not bad, but they're certainly not a guaranteed L. Come on, Boston College. You're in the ACC. You're supposed to be pretending to care about this stuff. Holy Cross is good. They are a perennial FCS, like quarterfinal, semifinalist. That's bad for you, Boston College. This should be a lot closer than it should be. I truly think Holy Cross wins this game. Jeff Hafley is in the hot seat. Also at noon, we have JMU at Virginia on ESPNU. This is UVA's first home game since the tragedy where 3 players were killed in November. They're going to have a ton of emotions. This is going to be a very emotionally charged game. And JMU is going to win. And no one's going to be happy about that. JMU is actually favored by 6. UVA, not very good. JMU, very good. And they're going to go into Virginia and ruin a day that should have a lot of emotions for a lot of people in the Charlottesville area. But I think JMU wins. Also, I don't know that this actually counts as an upset because UVA is bad and JMU is very good. But I guess it's an upset because it's G5 over P5. Anyways, let's move on to 3:30. We have an absolute banger of a game, and whoever scheduled this game should not be fired. They should be lauded, applauded, and held on a pedestal. Ole Miss at Tulane on ESPN2. Ole Miss is favored by 7.5, but this absolutely rules. More of this should happen. We should see more home and homes, especially in these sort of regional G5, P5 teams. I would love nothing more than to see, Georgia go down to Georgia Southern. But Ole Miss at Tulane, we're gonna get on top of this one. Ole Miss scored 73, and they beat the brakes off of Mercer. Tulane will probably put up a sturdier fight. They rolled over a very, very good South Alabama team, 37-17. Roll dang wave. Go get yourself an SEC win. Return to SEC wins. Tulane, you should do it. A reminder that Tulane was an SEC team and was an SEC power at one point until their president of the university decided that athletics should come behind academics and mostly killed the team. If you want to hear more about that, go subscribe to the Patreon for Split Zone Duo and go find the Dead Letters episode on Tulane. It's fantastic. At 3:30 p.m. as well on Fox. LSU go! It is Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa's favored by 4 here. Crappy and Carla will posit that because this has such a low fun index, and by the way, it's incredibly low. It's like 30.5 or something. It's a stupidly low number. By the way, hammer the under if you're into that sort of thing. But everybody thinks that I won't want to watch this game because the fun index is so low. And the answer is no. I am absolutely going to watch this game. It is a horseshoe game. It is so bad that it loops around into being something I want to watch. It's the car crash corollary, we'll call it that, where I'm going to rubberneck this game. There's no point in me watching this game. It's just going to be punt on punt on punt over and over and over again. And this game will end 13-6 or 10-6, somewhere in that range. And as long as that's the case, it's going to be gross to actually watch play in and play out. But hear me out. It'll actually be stupid to watch because it's Iowa playing Iowa State. This game is between two fan bases that don't like each other very much, and one of the offensive coordinators is being specifically told to score more points, and in this game, he absolutely will not. That average is going up, y'all. Iowa wins. Brian falls further behind. Also at 3:30, UTEP at Northwestern. UTEP's favored by a point. This will be on the Big Ten Network. Don't watch this game. Northwestern is fully broken, and I expect the Miners to win. 3:30 p.m. also on ESPN Plus. Texas State at UTSA. Meep against a revamped Texas State that wants to score points and destroy you. I love this. UTSA is favored by 13. I don't know what Vegas is on with this one. Texas State went into Baylor and beat them handily. It wasn't they scored late to take the. No. Texas State got the ball, got the wins, went up by a number of points, and got to kneel it out in Waco. That's what we're talking about here. And it makes me very happy to see things like that happen. But this game should rule. This game should absolutely rule. It should be on your second screen behind Ole Miss and Tulane, and it may also get pointsy because it's got a fun index of 65.5. I still think UTSA wins, but Texas State puts on a much better show than they have in the past few years. At 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus, and that is a flippin' travesty in my opinion, SMU at Oklahoma. We've got Oklahoma minus 15.5. I think Oklahoma found the points button again, y'all. They scored 73 and beat Arkansas State. This has a healthy fun index of 68.5. There's going to be a ton of points scored, and it's going to be behind a paywall run by high school kids from a film crew standpoint. This is going to get stupid fast. I expect Oklahoma to win, but on the way out. At 7 p.m., UCF at Boise State on FS1. UCF is favored by 3.5. 2015 me is losing his mind right now. I'm going crazy. But now it's a P5, G5 game, and the P5 team is UCF. Just blowing my mind out here, right? Boise's coming off getting absolutely cooked by Washington. Michael Penix Jr. put on a show for the kids in Seattle. It is unbelievable what he was doing to that defense. Boise is not Boise anymore. We used to look at Boise State going into a P5 team going ooh, this might be spicy, this might be too much. And now I'm no, it'll probably be fine. UCF coming in and being favored on the blue turf is kind of crazy. I think UCF actually wins. And we have a whole lot of questions around what Boise is and what they're going to be going forward. 7:30, complete sidebar. Temple at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network. It's the battle for New Jersey. I just wanted to say that. That's all. It's the battle for New Jersey. Don't watch this game. But if it's close, you can have a giggle if it's other games are in commercial break. Just keep that in mind. Also at 7:30 p.m., we have UCLA at San Diego State on CBS. Brady Hoke, Chip Kelly. Why? Honestly, this is UCLA just keeping it local and getting a G5 game on the schedule because they don't have to go that far. San Diego from LA is not that far at all. They'll be playing in the new Qualcomm Snapdragon Stadium. I forget which one it is. Qualcomm is a chip company that makes the Snapdragon chip. It's not Qualcomm Stadium. It's whatever. This game should be fun if Chip Kelly figures out that Dante Moore is a better quarterback than Chase Garbers. And anybody who was watching that game last week should be able to tell you that Dante Moore is a better quarterback than Chase Garbers. It was very clear that the offense clicked better, moved better with Dante, and Chase Garbers just couldn't get it done. I fully expect Chip to lean in. I hope he leans in. And San Diego State still doesn't really have an offense. They were ripping off plays against Idaho State that they will not be able to get off against UCLA. And I think UCLA rolls. We're going to move to 9 p.m. We got UC Davis at Oregon State on the Pac-12 network. DJU looked fantastic against San Jose State. UC Davis is a really, really good, perennial semifinal FCS team. And they're going to Corvallis. This game should be fun, and no one will see it. but I hope DJU and the rest of Oregon State gets it together. They looked fantastic against San Jose State. Like they got the chainsaws out, and they know that like the rest of the Pac-12 did them dirty, and they are coming for all of them. I'm very excited for this season. Beavs, by the way, keep the Pac-12 undefeated. At 10:30 p.m., we have Stanford at USC on Fox. USC is favored by 29. I feel like that number is completely uncalled for. Like that number's way off. And I don't know why that is. Obviously, USC has a crazy good offense. Like there's no doubting that. But their defense is pillow soft. And Stanford looked good, like competent and good and fun against Hawaii. Now, is that Hawaii's defense is not that good? Is Stanford actually that fun? I don't know. And I'm interested to say that it is Stanford is actually that good, and Troy Taylor has them playing fun and well. And so I think this is the Pac-12's first loss of the year. I don't feel like I'm going too far out and saying that because it's two Pac-12 teams playing each other. One of them's got to lose. So I still think USC wins, but I think Stanford makes this a lot closer than what the line says. ESPN, also at 10:30, we have Auburn at Cal. That's a game that was scheduled. Auburn's favored by 6.5. Whoever scheduled this, I love you. And we should do more of this stupid thing. Cal found an offense somewhere. I don't know where they found it. They were digging in the bin in Berkeley, and they were like, oh, crap. Jeff Tedford left his playbook. Can we use this? I think we can use this, right? Oh, okay. And they started running an actual offense, and they scored 55 against North Texas out of nowhere. Like no one saw that coming. They ran all over North Texas. I think Auburn puts up a sturdier fight. I think Auburn still wins, but maybe this game could actually be fun. And don't pay attention to who's coaching Auburn. And I hope he loses handily. Actually, you know what? I would love for Cal to win by 3 touchdowns. I want to laugh so damn hard on Saturday night. Give me that, Cal. And finally, on FS1, also at 10:30 p.m., we have Oklahoma State at Arizona State. Oklahoma State's favored by 3. Neither one of these teams knows what they are yet. They don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Arizona State struggled with Southern Utah. Oklahoma State struggled with Central Arkansas, I think. Both of these teams are not in the right place. It was very pre-season-y. So we're going to watch these teams grow together on Saturday night. Stay up, caffeinate. Thank you, Carla, for staying up and caffeinating with me. This is the last season of the Pac-12 and true Pac-12 After Dark. So I think we need to make sure that we continue to give it the send-off that it deserves. This has been your Group of 5 After Dark Report. AJ, out.
Thank you, AJ. I hope you enjoy all of those. I will do my best to stay up as late as I can on Saturday. Carla, you know, I might have to break out the caffeine. Maybe we'll see.
Yep.
No promises.
I went and got an iced coffee at like 3:00 on Saturday afternoon, which as I texted it to both of you when I got it, like, okay, this is my attempt. That's not really true because I've gotten into the bad habit of having caffeine at about 3:00 in the afternoon almost every day now. being a toddler mom, that's kind of how I finish out the rest of my day. So I was still pretty tired and was fighting to keep my eyes open at the end of that game, but we'll see.
Okay. We have games that you can watch during the daylight hours on Saturday, and we're going to take you through a whole bunch of them. If we're ready to go, we're going to start with a big Nude, as we like to do here. That is at noon. It is on the Fox network. Nebraska at now number 22, Colorado. The Buffs are favored by 3.5. The AJ Fun Index is a respectable 57.5 points. Certainly this game became exponentially more interesting after last week's game by Colorado. Carla, what do you see happening here?
Nebraska. Ouch. I'm not sure that Nebraska could have started the season in a worst possible way. And I mean that from a mental standpoint, right? Like this was a team that for the last 2 seasons lost how many 1-score games late in the game, was part of the reason why Scott Frost got canned. Mm-hmm. They bring in a new coach with in the hypothetical, all new timeline, new energy around the program. And Nebraska led that game on Thursday night until like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Minnesota ties it up. And then a turnover causes Minnesota to have enough time to go and kick a field goal and win the game. As AJ was texting us, he's like, it's in the walls, right? Like, it's, what do you do from a mental standpoint? And this is a huge test for Matt Rule. When you have enough returning players that have to be going in their brains, like, not again. Baseball pitchers get the yips. Like, is this a team that kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be a mental standpoint at this point for this team. And you would have thought, with the fresh momentum, with new coach and everything, and now all of a sudden they're right back where they were. And it's just got to be, oh God, not again. And you're going to Boulder to play a Colorado team that suddenly has all of the momentum in the world. And they just beat essentially the runner up to the national title. Now, again, TCU, completely different team this year. And so I get that, but to go for Colorado to go on the road, beat the Horny Toads in Fort Worth on national television I mean, I doubted Colorado. I didn't think that the whole, like, let's just portal an entire roster. I didn't think that had any merit whatsoever. We talked about this. I thought it was going to take at least a year, maybe two, for them to see any real momentum happening. And what we saw Saturday was arguably, along with Florida State, the most impressive performance of the entire weekend. These are two teams that feel like they're heading in completely opposite directions. Had you asked me last week, I would have said this is a game that puts Nebraska back at, Nebraska could be sitting at 2-0 here, looking to turn their season around, go bowling. Colorado's got all the momentum here, and they're playing at home. Right? Like, I like the line on this game. I think Colorado wins. For Nebraska's sake, I hope it's not a one-score game. Because you gotta shake that. But everything here says Colorado wins this game. Now, it wouldn't stun me if the script gets reversed here, and these are two teams that was their fate for week one. Because I think Nebraska is a good football team. If they can get over this mental hurdle, they're capable of beating Colorado. It's just, right now I'm going to say Colorado, but it wouldn't stun me if Nebraska wins this game somehow. Just because that's why we love college football, right? But Coach Prime, I think you're going to be 2-0 and shocking the world.
I would
That's
like
crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. I would like Nebraska's chances better if we saw a more prolific offense than we did against the version that played in Minnesota. If we look past the hype for a second, you understand that Colorado's defense is ripe for the picking. They gave up 541 yards, 42 points in their upset at TCU. So this is not by any stretch a defensive masterpiece. But I'm not sure that the Huskers are in a position to be able to take advantage of it. So we'll. I want to be a Big Ten guy here, and I want to. The conference is better when your traditional powers are good. And Nebraska is in that position. But I don't feel like they're ready to keep up with the offense that Colorado had on display on Saturday. I think Colorado goes 2-0. And as you said, let's maybe make it a blowout. I don't know, just as long as it's not a one-score game. That would be a bit too much to handle. Also at noon on ABC, number 10 Notre Dame at NC State. The Irish are favored by 7.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a fun-ish 51.5. What do you think, Carla?
Irish have like video game stats right now. Like, when you go look at for the first two games, they're averaging more than 500 yards per game total offense. And defensively, they're allowing just 55 yards per game passing. Now, again, measure the competition there, right? I
Yes.
get it. It's Navy and it's Tennessee State, but still, I mean, you couldn't have asked for, with 2 cupcakes on the schedule, you couldn't have asked for a better start from the Irish, right? They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. As you said last week, Sam Hartman might be good at football. He had another really great week against Tennessee State. NC State quarterback Brennan Armstrong led his team in rushing last week.
Well,
and
that's a great sign.
Yeah, that's another one of those red flags, right? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, but you also don't want your quarterback to lead your team in rushing.
Right.
And what makes that a little bit even sketchier is the fact that they played UConn. Now, I know that Jim Mora is like moving mountains in Connecticut right now, because I mean, he's just really kind of turned that program around and like making them competitive in just his second year up there. But at the same time, it's like, on paper, this looks like this could be the first real test that the Irish have faced going up against an ACC school. But I don't know how much of a test NC State's going to be this year. Maybe that's me getting a bad read on it. And that might be true. We've seen Notre Dame play twice against Cupcakes. We've seen NC State once against a team that is on the rise,
right,
to an extent.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't like the fact that there wasn't more of a ground game. And defensively, they gave up, a decent chunk of yardage to UConn. I see this game being probably Notre Dame's best test, but still an Irish win. As long as they're not looking ahead to next week. That's my only caveat there. As long as they're not looking ahead to the big game at home next weekend. I think Notre Dame wins this game, and fairly comfortably.
Okay. As my notes begin with a similar idea. This, I think, we'll start to get an idea of what Notre Dame is about this season. Up to this point, it's been, hey, touchdown Sam Hartman, touchdown Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman throws for another touchdown. Hey, there's another touchdown for Sam Hartman. Without being too judgy about what NC State has to offer, I mean, I think they will be able to provide a stiffer test than either Navy or Tennessee State. And I think that's going to be reflected in how the game turns out. I still see Notre Dame win, but going on the road for the first time, I guess Ireland, if Ireland counts as going on the road, I suppose. But I think Notre Dame wins a tightish game in Raleigh for the Irish at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Stop with the brogue, please. Number 20 Ole Miss at number 24 Tulane. The Rebels are favored by 7.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a positively enticing 65 points. What do you think?
Yeah, Ole Miss played a cupcake in week 1 and put up a massive number of points. That was another note that I had. There were 5 teams that scored more than 65 points last weekend.
Right.
Ole Miss was one of them. Playing Mercer. I think that game was 66-7 or something like that. Ridiculous.
Isn't it, Mercer's a high school in northwestern Pennsylvania, isn't it? I think that's right.
It's also a college in Georgia, because actually I have a friend who graduated from there. Hi, Caitlin. You're not listening to the show, but hi.
Hi, Caitlin.
So, so we really know nothing about Ole Miss. This is we have no idea episode. Tulane, as AJ mentioned in his report last week, South Alabama is a solid team. They won 10 games last year, and Tulane beat them pretty handily. Michael Pratt the quarterback Michael Pratt had a near perfect game. He was 14 of 15 for 294 and 4 touchdowns. The only incompletion that he had. Right. The only incompletion that he had was because the receiver dropped the ball. It was in his hands. So Tulane showed off some offensive innovation. There was this wild flea flicker that they had for a touchdown, and their defense forced 3 turnovers.
Okay.
This is a arguably Tulane team that had a better first week test than Ole Miss did. I feel like we know more about Tulane against South Alabama. Again, South Alabama and Ole Miss, 2 completely different spectrums there. But this is a Tulane team that the last time we saw them playing meaningful football was beating USC in a bowl game.
Yep.
Can Tulane pull this off, beat a Power 5 opponent for the second consecutive time and shock the world, and they're playing at home? This feels like a Tulane win to me. I'm going to go on the record and say, yes, what the heck?
Okay.
The Wave win this game at home.
My notes are brief. Hey, Lane Kiffin, fire your scheduling guy. You're not leaving New Orleans with a win on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just briefly, Tulane didn't lose a whole lot from the team that was so successful a season ago. And they are not going to be, we saw it in the bowl game. They're not intimidated by a Power 5 school and a Power 5 conference game. They have this at home in that little bandbox of a stadium. This is a win. This is a win for Tulane.
And Ole Miss is used to being able to just outscore their opponents, right? Because Ole Miss's defense is abysmal, and it has been for the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Right.
They're just used to going out and putting up the points. Tulane can keep up with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference here with the momentum at home. Yeah, this feels Tulane to me. It's going to be pointy as heck and entertaining as all get out. I hate the fact this game is on ESPN too. This should be an ESPN proper game. But thanks, Media Rights Deal.
At 3:30 on ABC, number 23 Texas A&M at Miami. A&M is favored by 4.5 points. AJ Fun Index of a mildly fun 51. Carla, is Jimbo riding the ship this season?
Well, he made some improvements. Hired a new offensive coordinator, a guy we may have heard of by the name of Bobby Petrino.
Petrino, motorcycle guy, right? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that guy. So he hired him. And the Aggies offense scored touchdowns on their first 5 possessions against New Mexico.
That's a pretty good sign.
That's good improvement, right?
Yeah.
So we know that the Aggies have the potential, they can score now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the big knock against them last year, is that their offense was just inconsistent. Miami, and we talked about the Miami on Miami violence, right?
Right.
University of Miami did what they needed to do. That was a pretty impressive win against a good MAC team. But hear this and let it sink in, because this is going to be one of those things that does not compute, right? Miami had more offensive yards on the ground last week than through the air.
Okay.
Yes, really. That's not what we think of when we think Miami and South Beach. Right? We think big offense. We think big pass plays. This was a team that got it done on the ground last week, even after Tyler Van Dyke's first pass of the season went for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Miami had just 1 touchdown in the first half and settled for 3 field goals. So they were putting up the offensive numbers. They weren't finishing drives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a problem when you're going up against an offense that has proven, at least in week 1, against an inferior New Mexico team, that they can finish drives with touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Hurricanes defense played really well, but is it good enough to stop what appears to be an improved offense in Texas A&M? This game is at Hard Rock. I think that evens things out a bit, but I think on paper, Aggies are the better team here.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game's close. But I'm going to say Texas A&M gets it done on the road. But it wouldn't stun me if Miami pulls this off. Because again, we don't really know a lot about the A&M defense. Is playing New Mexico. You don't know. How is Texas A&M's run defense? We don't know. And if Miami is able to get a ground game going, they could pull this off. But I think right now the pick is the Aggies on the road.
Okay, I'm not sure what to make of the play calling balance from on the part of Miami against Miami. But the thing about the field goals is problematic, and as you get into stiffer competition, if you're not able to finish those drives, Or if you are unable to finish those drives and you don't have a lights out defense, that's going to be an issue. Miami could have a lights out defense. I mean, they held Miami University in check, and as you said, that's a respectable MAC team, unless you're an OU fan, and then you don't respect them at all. But that A&M has been able to score, that Petrino appears to have resurrected a moribund offense from a year ago, is a good sign for the Aggies. I think Jimbo's gonna get this straightened out. And I think that is going to start with this game. Look for Aggies to win on the road in Miami. Also at 3:30 on Fox. Oh, wow. We're going to start a new thing. We're going to call it the anti-AJ game of the week. That is the one with the fun index so brutal that AJ would be literally risking his mental health if he were to watch the game. Iowa at Iowa State. Iowa's favored by 4. The AJ Fun Index is 36.5 points. Carla, why on earth did you want to call this game?
Because it's tradition, and because AJ's going to talk. I haven't even heard what AJ said on his segment yet, and I already know he mentioned this game. Yeah. Because he always mentions this game. It's El Assico, right? Uh-huh. The fun index on this game should be called the Sickos Index. Let's be real here, right? Mm-hmm. Both of these teams last week gave up more yards defensively than they put up offensively. That's not uncharacteristic for either of these teams. Right. But hey, Iowa scored 24 points. So Brian Ferentz, you're right at average. Because he needs to average 25 points a game, and he was just 1 point under. So, yeah, so on the Brian Ferentz job watch, close enough, right?
We'll call that good. Yeah.
So my notes on this game say this. This game is in Ames. Edge Cyclones.
Right.
Cade McNamara is still the quarterback at Iowa for like the 17th season. Mm-hmm. Edge Hawks. Mm-hmm. So this game, this game's gonna be painfully stupid. Mm-hmm. I didn't pick a winner when I did my notes for this game. This feels like an Iowa State at home. Usually the home team wins. I feel like the home team is going to do this as much as I want Iowa to win this game. Mm-hmm. But like this might be the first team to 10 wins. As in like 10 points. Okay. The first team to score 10 points might win this game. Okay. And I'm going to say the Cyclones figure out a way to do it at home.
The relevant part of my notes that about this game, and there aren't many, Iowa wins 10-6. There you go.
I was going to pick an Iowa State win 10-7. Yeah.
There you go. This game, it's if you have a weird fixation on the Big Ten and Midwestern football, by all means, take it in. It will get no better than this all season. At 7 p.m. on ESPN, number 11, Texas at number 4, Alabama. Actually, that's incorrect. Number 3, Alabama. I didn't change that in my notes. Bama is favored by 7. The AJ Fun Index is a 54.5 points. Carla, what do you think about this one?
So the quarterback drama in Texas is already underway. Let's sit back and enjoy this for the rest of the season, right? Man. Because Quinn Ewers exited early in week 1 because the Longhorns had a comfortable lead. Yeah. Sark put in Malik Murphy.
Well,
not
wait
the
a minute.
Kid with the last name of Manning.
What about that Manning guy?
Right. And as predictable, as the internet is so predictable, the message boards went berserk. Like, what is Sark doing? Why is Murphy in this game? And just the drama that we knew was going to happen in Texas is happening, and Texas won the football game. Mm-hmm. And Ewers had a good day, right? And that's just welcome to Texas football. It's just absolutely chaotic. So I dug into some stats for this game.
Yes.
Outside of the quarterback drama.
Okay.
And I took a look at Texas's performance against Rice.
Okay.
And Bama's performance against my beloved Blue Raiders, which did not go well for my
Okay.
Blue Raiders. I have some thoughts about that I'll mention towards the end of the show. Arguably, when you're looking at teams and conferences, Rice is in the American, Middle's in the CUSA. Arguably, Rice is a little bit better than Middle, right? Let's just be real.
Okay.
Better conference, I mean, a little bit bigger, a little different recruiting, and heck, they've got JT Daniels at quarterback. Okay. Edge Rice, like for real, because Daniels is a good quarterback. When you look at these two teams, when you look at what each team did against those opponents, Texas had more total yards of offense against Rice than Alabama had against Middle. Bama put up 56 points compared to Texas's 37, but you wonder how much of that was because Sark decided to get Ewers out of the game early. Also, the Texas defense held Rice to just 27 yards on the ground. Alabama allowed Middle 78.
Okay.
Right? Also, remember Rice's quarterback is JT Daniels, and they play in the American. So when you're looking at that, arguably Texas had a better overall performance, even though they didn't score as many points. They had a better overall performance against Rice than Alabama had against Middle, statistically. Last year, this was the game that Quinn Ewers got hurt.
Right.
And Texas had Alabama on the ropes at home in Austin. Ewers goes down and Alabama finds a way to win that game. Is Bama mortable, to borrow your word from last season?
Mortable.
Maybe. If this game was in Austin, I would probably give the Horns a real shot here to make a statement at home. But it's in Bryant-Denny at night.
Right.
Edge tied. I think this game is going to be really good. I think Texas is going to outperform expectations here and make this game really close. This is going to be one of those grumpy Saban post-game pressers where he realizes that he was lucky to escape. This is a 1-score win for Alabama at home. Really, really good football game. And Texas is going to prove, at least for now, as long as everybody stays healthy, they deserve to be a part of the conversation.
Okay.
But Bama wins at home.
Okay. If Bama is in fact mortable, it didn't really show last week against Middle. Although I checking in during the first half, the Blue Raiders acquitted themselves pretty well, but were barely able to register on the scoreboard in Tuscaloosa. Texas had a solid, if not spectacular, win against Rice, as you mentioned. I think just kind of comparing the two, and this is the weird thing we have to do in the beginning of the season. Making comparisons that aren't really comparable. I don't, whatever. That puts them a rung or two below Alabama in the grand scheme of college football things. A tight game. I think a touchdown win is probably a pretty good prediction. But Bama and Jalen Milroe, who was really impressive last weekend, will get that win at home. This wouldn't count as staying up for me because it starts at 7:30, which is the middle of the afternoon on the West Coast. So this might be an opportunity for me to for some Big Ten against Pac-12. Fun. Number 19, Wisconsin is at Washington State. Wisconsin is favored by 6.5. The AJ Fun Index is 58.5. Carla, what do you think about this one?
This one was one that when I saw it on the schedule, I went, that's an interesting game. Mostly because this is a Wisconsin team that, as I mentioned, like they have a new offense, they have a new coach, and they've got big plays in their offense now, which is a weird thing to think about with Wisconsin football, right? They had an 80+ yard touchdown run. And everyone was kind of like, wait, Wisconsin can like have a big play? We haven't seen that kind of offense out of Wisconsin in like a really long time. that was just not the style of Wisconsin football. I mean, they had the occasional decent gain, but like a deep play, deep shot is not just something that we're used to out of Wisconsin. Playing a team in Wazoo that is always kind of, particularly when they play in Pullman, likes to play spoiler. And we've seen some really interesting matchups in the last couple of years between the Big Ten and the Pac-12, where Pac-12 teams have like messed around and figured out ways to beat Big Ten opponents. And so that's why when I saw this, I was like, this is an intriguing game to make Wisconsin go across the country to play in Pullman on a Saturday. Well, I say Saturday night, but it's really late Saturday afternoon out on the West Coast. I don't know what to expect out of this game, because we don't really know a lot about either of these teams at this point. Wisconsin ran the football a lot.
Yeah,
a lot. They had 503 yards of total offense. More than 300 of those were on the ground. Going up against a Wazoo team offensively that had essentially no ground game. They rushed for like 80 something yards or so, some minuscule amount in their win over Colorado State, but they had a heck of a ground defense. They only allowed 37 yards rushing to Colorado State. That's crazy. Like Colorado State's like a legitimate team. So is Wazoo's ground defense really that good? And if so, is that going to be a problem for Wisconsin? It looks like it could be on paper. Wisconsin is the better team. They should win this football game, but it's Pullman on a Saturday night. Anything goes. I'm gonna pick the Badgers here, but it would not stun me if next week we were talking about a Wazoo win in this game. But Badgers. At
this point a year ago, we were talking about Wazoo beating Wisconsin in Madison. And that was sort of a thing that started the slide that ended up with that ended up with Luke Fickell as the head coach at Wisconsin. As you mentioned, the fun and gun has not completely taken over Wisconsin football. Tanner Mordecai threw a couple of picks compared to one touchdown against Buffalo. So the Badgers reverted to what they do, which is run the football, and they racked up 314 rushing yards. The Cougars, on the other hand, threw the ball almost exclusively in their win against Colorado State, and I'm giving Luke Fickell's his personal emphasis on defense. I mean, that's the side of the ball where he gets involved. That might be the throwing the ball against Wisconsin to that degree might be a tough assignment. The Badgers are the better team here, and I think with the changes, they will avoid an upset like they did a year ago. Badgers will beat the Cougars on the road, and I may even stay up to watch. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. And for the first time this season, you can read us on our Substack, where you can also listen and watch us. So hit that Substack subscribe button. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week to see exactly how wrong or occasionally how right we were.
Once in a blue moon, we're right.
Once in a blue moon. If I say the word Clemsoning enough, it's bound to happen. It's just like it's like Beetlejuice. Clemsoning. Carla, we've got another great slate and games that we haven't even talked about. What are you looking forward to this coming weekend?
So 2 very quick things. The first one is just an intriguing note. Oregon at Texas Tech, 7 Eastern on Fox. So this is the Texas Tech team that lost in double overtime to Wyoming, right? I already talked about that. Oregon put up 81 points against Portland State. Now, again, Portland State, whatever. Yeah. But still 81 points. And yet the line on this Oregon at Texas Tech game is Oregon's favored by 6.5. Why? Why is the line that
it makes no sense?
What do they know that we don't? It doesn't make any sense. You would think that line would be at least 13. I have no idea what's going on there, what what's going on that caused that. So that has my interest peaked to go like, okay, maybe I should keep an eye on that game. Because they know somebody knows something that we don't. Because this looks like an easy Oregon win to me based on what I saw out of Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea. The other game that I obviously have my attention on will be my Middle Blue Raiders at Missouri, second straight SEC opponent for Middle. That game's at 7 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Okay, Bama. We expected that, right? I mean, let's be real.
Sure.
Yes, it would have been really cool that game had been a little bit closer, but here's what I liked out of Middle and what Stock mentioned in his post-game comments. You wouldn't know that the score was as lopsided as it was if you listened to Stock's post-game presser. He came out of that game feeling pretty good and admitted it. He liked what he saw from his team. What he saw was an offense that was able to move the football and then had drives stall. They played really well between the 20s. And then and just couldn't get it done from that point. And if you're able to do that against a team like Alabama, Missouri's a completely different animal here. Missouri is not Alabama. Missouri might be achievable in the grand scheme of things. We weren't going to beat Bama. It was just a fun pipe dream. We all had a lot of fun with it. This is a Middle team that has beaten Power 5 opponents on the road. This one is the one that feels like it might actually have some potential, especially going against the Missouri team that we still don't know who they are offensively. They've rotated in quarterbacks. They've had a new quarterback each of the last 3 seasons. So they don't have an offensive identity. They're pretty good on defense. So that will be the hurdle here is, can that Middle offense get things going? But hey, they just played Alabama's defense. So we're not at that same level there. So the line on this game is like 20.5. It felt, I mean, it is what it is because CUSA and SEC. This is your shot, Middle, to go beat a Power 5 opponent this year.
Do it.
This one feels like it could happen. Go Middle.
Do it. The game that I will be paying the most attention to this weekend is, of course, Ohio State. As I mentioned before, Ohio State has an FCS opponent in Youngstown State, and I absolutely hate it. It keeps the money in the state, and that's something I've always appreciated about Ohio State, how Ohio State schedules its non-conference games. But there are 7 other FBS schools in the state. A whole bunch of MAC schools. You see, that should be plenty for football scheduling purposes. Nothing good comes from scheduling FCS teams. If you win, it's like, well, duh, of course you did. And if you lose, well, I'd ask my friends in Ann Arbor what happens if you lose to one AA school. They still have not lived down Appalachian State, and they never ever will. Stop it, Ohio State. Before we're playing home and home games against Mount Union, let's stop this right now. Guys, we appreciate you watching, listening, consuming our content, however it is that you choose to do so. Carla, I appreciate you. I appreciate you as we always do.
Appreciate you as well.
Let's see, guys. Enjoy another week. This isn't like the bowl weekend we just had. Labor Day weekend is kind of special, but now we're going to get into sort of the.
God, I'm exhausted.
I know. It's like, yeah, honey. There's more. There's another game on tonight. And So yeah, we're gonna slip into a more usual, maybe a Thursday or a Friday, and then a whole bunch of Saturdays, and then that other league is going to start taking up Sundays, which is fine. They can have it. Cheers, Carla, to you.
Cheers.
Cheers to AJ, and cheers to you guys. Thank you again for being here. We hope you will join us again next week. See you, everybody. Thank you.